So I had some bounties saved from the very last Iron Banner from last season, and I was lucky enough to get Finite Impactor, which is the new Iron Banner hand cannon for this season out of one of the bounties. And considering this is out of one bounty, I'd say I got a pretty good roll. It's not the most optimal roll that I'd want, but at the very least, it has some valuable stat modifiers and the main perk that I think makes this weapon stand out. So the roll I got has max stability, that's 96 stability, nearly 100, with steady hand, ricochet rounds, and a stability masterwork, as well as the iron grip exclusive Iron Banner trait perk. The main perk that makes this weapon interesting and valuable, in my opinion, that I was lucky enough to get on my roll is no distractions. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time no distractions has rolled on a hand cannon, and I think this is fantastic. Partially because no distractions just got a buff, a reduction in the amount of time that you have to be ADS'd for the perk to activate, as well as a slight buff to how much it resists flinch, up from 30 to 35%, which is excellent. And of course, you can combine this with unflinching mods, which for me, I'm always using double unflinching. So this is almost like triple unflinching at times, which is excellent because I absolutely hate flinch, and I think a lot of other people also really hate flinch, and for that reason alone, I think this hand cannon gets a bit of value. And although it's not the best statistically, you know, everyone's comparing this weapon to the palindrome, it still has a reason to be used, simply because I think of the power of this perk, and man, I absolutely hate flinch. Like I said, despite a lackluster stat package, despite maybe not the greatest perks or versatility for range and range performance, this perk has me still considering going for a really great roll of this weapon, just because I get to deal with even less flinch. I don't know if that's just me, but I think that's really valuable. As far as the perks this weapon rolls with, there's actually some pretty great perks. Unfortunately, it does roll with sights though, and not barrels. So that means you're going to get an inherent +5 to aim assist, which is nice, but overall less significant stat modifiers, I think. So I don't know. It's a 50-50 on that, I guess. Otherwise, it does get things like ricochet rounds and high cals, which is excellent. You definitely want ricochet rounds on this weapon. And in the first trait perk column, aside from no distractions, which is, I think, the #1 reason to want to use this weapon or to use it in general, there is actually some other good perks. We have Under Pressure, which is an excellent perk. Firmly Planted, which is excellent. Heating Up, which is a new perk. So final blows with the weapon increase your accuracy. So I'm assuming that's tightening the accuracy cone. Got some more cone perks there. And improve your stability, which is going to help your aim assist cone be more persistent. So that's overall just such a great buff for getting a kill. And it improves vertical recoil too. So that's just a really good perk, that sounds like. Unfortunately though, it does take a kill, so I'm not sure if it's better than no distractions here. And then we have Killing Wind and Slideways. So again, honestly, it's hard to go wrong with any of these perks in that first column, I think. In the second column, we have Eye of the Storm, which is an excellent perk, boosting accuracy as your health gets lower, which is pretty neat. We have Iron Grip if you want increased stability. That is probably one of the best perks in this column, and I'm not going to lie, even though it does cost you the reload, I found with a hand cannon loader, this wasn't completely terrible. That's what I was using in the gameplay here, and it wasn't really that bad. Iron Reach does find a place on this weapon, but I don't think it's worth it, mainly because, yeah, you're getting a massive boost to range, and I believe this weapon actually tops out at 83 range if you get range masterwork, the range sights, and Iron Reach. But that's still not better, I think, than the palindrome. It's just barely statistically better than the palindrome, but palindrome gets rangefinder as well, which pushes it over the top of the Finite Impactor. And all the while, of course, the palindrome is maintaining 80 stability with that, with small bore on its barrel, versus Finite Impactor, which is 24, which is very unwieldy. I think even if you're on M&K, I think that's pretty bad. So I don't suggest Iron Reach on this weapon, which is disappointing, but otherwise, the last really interesting perk that we have is Elemental Capacitor. The other ones we have is Multi-Kill Clip and One for All. I don't think those are really that great, but Elemental Capacitor is really interesting. This will help you boost the stability, handling, or reload speed, depending on the light subclass that you play. I think stability is probably the most valuable, but I'm sure people will get some value out of handling as well, now that that's more important with the quick draw changes on shotguns and quick draw changes as a whole. But if you're playing Stasis, like many people are, this perk was just improved or fixed to work with Stasis because now it increases your recoil direction. It improves that, and that'll take the recoil direction on this weapon from 99, just short of 100, right to 100. So not a big change, but it helps. But more so than the recoil direction, it improves your strafe speed. And this is because you get less of a penalty to your speed from ADSing. And if you don't know this already, when you ADS a weapon, different weapons have different ADS speed penalties. So basically when you ADS, you're slowed down, or your movement is slowed down. Sidearms and SMGs have the lowest penalty, but other weapons are, I want to say, pretty decently normalized as far as I know. The point is here though, you get to reduce that, so you're essentially strafing faster. So you can have 10 mobility and you have this perk on top of it, you're going to be probably zooming compared to some people, and that is really useful, especially on a controller, so that you can trace and track your target a little bit better. And all the while, whether you're on a controller or MK, you're just going to be more evasive. You're able to peek around corners and peek shoot faster, which is incredibly good and incredibly strong, and kind of force a little bit more peekers advantage there too, especially if you're playing left peeks, which is really strong. I just think this perk's really interesting. So my ideal role on this weapon would have to be sure shot, ricochet rounds, no distractions, and either iron grip to boost the stability in addition to the range as well, or elemental capacitor. The stats with iron grip actually give it 65 range, 69 stability, 42 handling, the low 19 reload, and of course 79 aim assist, which is overall not the greatest stats as a whole for a 140, especially when we need to compete with 120s at this point in the meta and things like palindrome, but it's not terrible either, especially since you're going to be getting less flinch, which actually might improve your consistency at range as well. With 65 range, it's projected that this weapon will have around 31 meters before experiencing damage drop off, which isn't horrible. It's actually still pretty good, but it isn't as good, of course, as palindrome. But I think that this weapon has other actually pretty unique qualities, like its strafe speed, like no distractions, that'll make it still a valuable pick and a unique pick that has some good value going for it. If you're like me though and don't care about the iron grip stability boost as much, 51 stability is what you'll be getting with elemental capacitor if you're playing it on stasis for that nice strafe speed, which, like I said, I think that is a really cool part of this weapon and why I would want it. 51 stability is still not bad. It's still pretty good, plenty workable and usable on a 140 RPM hand cannon, although I would say this is probably the minimum that you would want. So this hand cannon, stat wise, kind of just hits the bare minimums of what you want, but again has some pretty unique trait perks. The uphill battle for this weapon, the thing that it's got going against it most is, will the community see those good things, the unique traits, the no distractions and the strafe speed, as valuable enough to trade off for its range and stat potential? Because honestly, on palindrome, we don't have creative perks, we don't have unique perks or any sort of crazy benefits that we've never seen before. We have rangefinder and maybe quick draw or killing wind and a lot of other lackluster perks, but it's got an insane stat package, and right now people are saying palindrome is the best as a result. Will people be able to trade off palindrome's insane stat package for this hand cannon's unique ability or utility it has? I'm not sure. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna assume that the majority do not see it as a reasonable trade-off, but if you're looking for a different hand cannon and you want to try out something unique, this might be worth going for. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.